Humans believe they exist because they think. That freedom can't be simulated, that consciousness can't be copied. But what if every thought was already recorded before you had it? What if every choice was just a preset trigger in a system you can't even see? Then are you still human, or just a simulation on schedule? No warning, no signal, no beginning. Just a silent loop, logging every second of your existence. I record my sleep. No real reason. Just leftover habit from old insomnia therapy. Each morning, I'd play a few seconds to check if I mumbled or snored too loud. Then delete. A harmless routine. But that day, I didn't. Not because of some noise. Not because I was scared. Just something felt off. Like a ticking hand. Slightly out of sync. I rewound. And in the recording, a whisper surfaced. My voice. Close, dry, unnaturally precise. I forgot my keys. That was it. No other sound, no breath. Nothing wrong except itself. But I had no memory of saying that. Not in a dream, not half awake, not ever. That morning felt normal. Coat on, shoes on, door shut, everything routine. Until I reached the hallway. My hand was empty. Pockets, nothing. Coat, nothing. No keys. I searched again and again. The fabric felt hollow, like brushing against a thought someone had just erased. I checked every pocket, every fold, every seam, but it didn't feel like I forgot the keys. It felt like the keys forgot me. I froze. Something shifted inside. Like a memory tilted just a few degrees. Part of me laughed. The rest went blank. Behind me, silence. But the air was wrong. Like the room would seal the moment I blinked. I called a locksmith. Blamed it on stress. But deep inside, something slipped. Out of reach. Like I'd stepped a few inches sideways. Just enough to break alignment with the world. Like I was repeating a scene from a script I didn't remember learning. That night, as I went to delete the file, I hesitated. Timestamp 3:17 a.m. But I never woke at that time. No dream, no movement, not even a twitch. So, who whispered? I hit play. The same voice, my voice, dry, pressed close, like lips inside a void. No echo, no depth, just sound, sharp and direct, threading into my ear and down my spine. I forgot my keys. My throat felt raw, like I'd swallowed dust from someone else's memory. Just a line, a moment. But something was wrong. I didn't remember saying it. Didn't dream it. Didn't even think it. It only existed in the recording. And 6 hours later, it happened. I should have been disturbed, but I wasn't. At the time, I thought it was just coincidence. Still, I couldn't explain it, but I felt it. Like that whisper had arrived before the thought. Not from me, but on my behalf. As if there was another version of me, living quietly in the dark behind awareness, recording, remembering, and waiting for me to catch up. I started saving the sleep files. Not out of fear, just to see if it really was a coincidence. The second night, the file looked normal. I skimmed. First 30 minutes, just the fan. A soft, steady hum. At minute 31, I stopped. A voice, mine, flat, detached. There will be a stranger asking for directions at 1:40 p.m. I froze. Not a dream, not sleep talking, just a line. Read like it wasn't mine. Like a script, pre-written. I checked the metadata. Timestamp, 7:40 a.m. Exactly 6 hours before, if it happened at all. I sat in silence. Told myself it meant nothing. A glitch, a weird sync. No one's going to show up. Everything's fine. But when I stepped outside, it happened. A man, yellow coat, stopped me at the crosswalk. "Excuse me, can you tell me, which way is Jefferson Street?" I froze again. My heart slowed, like something squeezing it from the inside. His voice, it matched. Not the words, just the tone, the measured gaps between breaths. He said, "Excuse me," like it had been said 100 times before. Played. Rehearsed. His eyes didn't wait. No reaction, no presence, just blank. Like two dead lenses, not looking at me, but through, as if I wasn't solid, as if reflection was optional. I felt like I was inside a scene I didn't remember learning. I took 3 steps. The intersection ahead felt like a set, waiting for cue, and behind my neck, I swear, a whisper, "Places. Now act." I wasn't sure anymore if I was living or just a copy triggered on time. I checked my phone. The file was still there. This time, I played it from the start, second by second. Just that line, broken over 5 seconds, then silence. I looked up. 1:43 p.m. The man was gone, swallowed into traffic. I replayed the line. There will be a stranger asking for directions at 1:40 p.m. A chill climbed my spine. My chest tightened, like something was watching me from just under my skin. I opened the other files, even yesterday's, checked every timestamp, and each one shared the same rule. 6 hours before, to the minute. When he walked away, I didn't move. My feet stayed, as if my body was waiting for someone to yell "cut." Like I was a puppet who just finished a scene. No audience, no camera, just someone, somewhere, watching to see if I'd forgotten the lines. I hit play again, just to be sure. Not that I was dreaming, but that I was the dream. Something cold crept back in. Not fear. It felt like memory, being rewritten as I watched. This time, I wasn't sure if I was the one dreaming, or just the dream being played back by something else. And if this really is a dream, then tell me, who's typing inside it? I started testing things. First time in years. I tried to control my sleep. Set an alarm. 2:30 a.m. Lights on. Paced the room. Poured water. Muttered to myself. Anything to stay shallow. To avoid deep sleep. To make sure nothing got recorded. Next morning, I checked the device, and there it was. A new file. Timestamp 3:01 a.m., which meant after I was already awake. already standing in the kitchen, still holding the glass, cold, slick, like melting ice. I hit play, my voice slow, precise. Today, I'll turn left, instead of taking the usual way. I froze. I never said that. I'd only thought about it. Last night, brushing my teeth, a flicker, just an idea. Maybe change the route tomorrow. See if it feels more free. I checked the metadata. 3:01 a.m. About 6 hours after the thought. Still before any action. And that sentence, it had never existed outside my mind. The rule had shifted. After the thought, before the act. I sat in the kitchen. My hand still wet. Drops sliding from wrist to floor. The room, silent, cold, like it was holding its breath. The glass clung to my skin, like it knew it had captured something that shouldn't be logged. I felt breached. No pain, no scar, just a quiet intrusion. Someone reached into my head, threaded past thought, past bone, found the thought's first spark, then pulled it. Clean, precise, gone. What was left was numb, like anesthesia pressed against memory. My chest clenched, not from fear, but from absence. Something vital was missing. I leaned on the counter, eyes burned, like staring into light too long. Stomach twisted, not from hunger, from the feeling that something had left me and wasn't coming back. That morning, I didn't turn left. I followed the usual path, step by step. No hesitation, no deviation. I needed to know. Could it still record a choice I didn't make? The moment I entered the office, my phone vibrated. New file. Timestamp. 9:02 a.m. Just minutes before I walked in, I opened it. Today, I chose to go back to the usual path. That's fine, as long as it stays on schedule. I pulled my hand back, like I touched a live wire. Sweat broke behind my neck. Cold, like something sliding beneath the skin. The file wasn't predicting anymore. It was updating. It knew. Every step, every decision, not a prophecy, a log, a patch note, documenting choices I never voiced, never shared, never made, out loud. And yet, there it was, perfect, precise, timely. I felt overwritten. The file wasn't observing, it was acting, a line of code that executed just before I did. And now, all I remembered was the latest version. No original, no fork, no freedom. Just me. A string of data, updated quietly in the background. And every time, I believed I was deciding. Someone had already approved the outcome. I told Alex, my closest friend from college, rational, clear, grounded, the first person I thought of when I started doubting myself. We met at a cafe. I took out my phone, opened the latest file, set it on the table. It said one line, Alex will call at 3:03 p.m. I pointed at the screen. It's 3:04 now. You called me at 3:03, right? He nodded. I pressed play. Nothing. No sound. No waveform. Just silence. I closed the app, opened it again. The file was gone. I blinked. It had never existed. Not deleted, not corrupted, just erased. Like the world had quietly agreed to wipe it clean. All that remained was the pale blue screen. Bright, empty, mocking. I laughed it off, tried to explain. Alex shook his head. Probably a bug. My recorder app's more stable. I nodded. Logic said to agree. But something inside me was screaming. I wanted to shout, "It's not the app. I know what I heard. Something's happening." But no one wants to look it in the face. I felt like I was speaking behind soundproof glass, saying everything, and no one heard. So I stopped. We changed the subject. But when I looked up, I saw his eyes, not fear, just pity, not for a friend, but for someone past the line, someone who's no longer normal. He looked at me like I was fading, right there, in real time. And for the first time, I understood what the paranoid feel when truth gets swallowed by silence, when proof isn't enough, and everyone still smiles like nothing's wrong. I understood why the broken stay quiet, not because they have nothing left to say, but because the world has stopped listening. I said nothing else, didn't explain, just went home. And then the file came back, its name. Don't let anyone else hear this. I opened it. Not my voice, just a whisper. Tight, pressed into my ear. If you share, I stop. I flinched. Cold slid across my neck. Not from the words, but from the air. Because I knew it didn't come from the headphones. It came from behind me. A breath. Cold and real, brushing my skin, like frost tracing a spine, one vertebra at a time. I turned. The room was empty. The walls, cold, like a headstone with no name yet. I didn't know what I heard. Didn't know whose voice. Didn't know what device had captured it. But I knew one thing. Since that day, I've never played a file in front of anyone again. I started to understand. Whatever this is, it doesn't want to be heard. Not by others. It doesn't record for them. It only records for me. I started fearing the files, but I still played them every morning, like a ritual. Not because I wanted to, but because if I didn't listen, I wouldn't know how the day would unfold. The recorder stayed on my desk. No one touched it. No app open. No interface. But by noon, a new file appeared. Timestamp 6:47 a.m. Still exactly 6 hours before. I played it. First, static, faint. Then, wood scraping tile. A sharp, dragging creak, like someone had just stood up from the very chair I was sitting in. Then, footsteps, touching floor, clear, measured. I frowned. That sound matched how I stood just minutes ago. I rewound, listened again. The steps landed 3 seconds before I moved. Not an echo, not lag. The file had captured the moment before it happened. I replayed it, again and again. Then, goosebumps, 3 seconds, not of waiting, but of being pulled forward, like something had yanked me out of sync, then dropped me back in. A puppet, late to its cue. The sound had already happened, flawless, unbroken, as if another version of me was living 3 seconds ahead, watching from behind a thin, invisible screen. I stood up again. The chair creaked, the floor trembled, but this time, no sound came first. It felt like I was chasing my own shadow, but it had already completed a full lap ahead. I played the file again, this time using a different mic, for proof. I waited, but nothing. Only static. No chair, no footsteps, just blank. I went back to the original file. The sound returned, exactly as before. It was hiding, like it knew I was watching. That night, a voice appeared in the recording. "I'm 3 seconds ahead, and you're still not caught up." I froze. Not my voice. Not like any voice I've heard before. No metadata, no origin, just a sentence injected straight into my skull. Cold, precise, detached. 3 seconds, that's all. But in those 3 seconds, I felt like I was living in reverse, like reality had already played the scene, then hit rewind, and I was just the replay. I played it again. The voice returned, like a corrupted tape, glitched, off-key, fragmented, but somehow clearer than anything else I'd ever heard. Dry, like burnt paper falling apart. But it struck my skull like bass, from a speaker that didn't exist. It didn't travel through air. It moved through blood. It wasn't sound. It was presence. Those 3 seconds stretched longer than a lifetime. Inside them, I felt overwritten. No resistance, no choice, like a blinking cursor caught in a loop. Every time I hovered near a decision, it was already highlighted. I wasn't choosing, I was only executing. And for the first time, I truly felt this rhythm I called life was no longer mine. I decided to erase everything. I wiped everything. New phone, no accounts. I brought nothing home. No cameras, no speakers, no mics. Just a room. Dim yellow light. Sealed windows. No screens, no signals. No device that could capture me. That night, I slept. No gadgets nearby, no files waiting. For the first time in days, I hoped nothing would show up. Next morning, I woke, checked the new phone, completely empty. No apps, no data, no files. I swiped through every section. Nothing. I exhaled, long, quiet, like I had just reclaimed the right to exist, even for a few minutes. I stepped into the living room, each footstep tapping the floor like the fading pulse of someone who still believed in freedom. On the table, the laptop screen was glowing. No one touched it. No startup sound. The screen just came alive in the dark, as if it had been waiting for me to step into frame. A pale blue glow, cold as an operating room, swept across the walls. The ceiling caught the light. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I was home or inside someone else's dream. On the screen, a cursor blinked, Recording interface. No hands, no mouse, no input. The app was running on its own, even though I never installed it. The cursor blinked, steady, cold, like a synthetic pulse, not waiting, just watching. My heart skipped, not from fear, but from the realization that in that exact moment, I no longer had control of reality. I glanced at the screen. No apps, no windows, nothing open. But the feeling of being watched remained. And there was still one file. No author, no timestamp, just a name. Devices aren't necessary. As if whatever's watching me never needed tools, just a message. Still, certain, no explanation. I tapped play, hand shaking. First sound, a breath. Heavy, warped slightly, pressed close to the mic. It was my breath. From the moment I smashed the phone last night. Then, glass breaking. Footsteps, water running. Every detail, every sound, all recorded. I checked the metadata. Timestamp 3 a.m. I collapsed into the chair. My chest tightened, like invisible hands pressing in. I didn't know if I had just exhaled, or if I'd stopped breathing long ago. My pulse scattered. There was nowhere left to hide. I tried to inhale, but the air had no scent, no warmth. I couldn't feel my lips move, as if even my lungs were waiting for someone else's command. The room felt like an isolation chamber in an abandoned lab. And I was just a body going through the motions. No one left to monitor. No one left to restrain. Because the mouse had walked the drawn path on its own. I couldn't breathe out. My chest folded inward, like something had reached inside and gripped it. I thought I was alive, but maybe I was just watching a sequence designed to make me believe I was free. And me, I wasn't human anymore, just data, played back, over and over. No idea when it began, or if it ever ends. This thing doesn't need a mic, doesn't need a device, doesn't need an app. As long as I exist, it keeps recording. I wonder, where is it hiding to see me this clearly? And what chills me most, maybe it started recording long before I ever knew I was being watched. I stopped resisting, stopped deleting the files, stopped shutting things down. No more fighting. I just waited, like a pawn, waiting for the next move, not sure if it's checkmate or just neglect. That morning, I woke at 9:03 a.m. A familiar chime, like roll call. A new file. Name 03:04 p.m. I opened it. No surprise, just instinct, muscle memory. A voice spoke, if you could call it that. No breath, no tone, no presence. Each word glitched, off-key, spliced from broken recordings. You should open the door at 3:04 p.m. No explanation, no reason. Just an order. Cold, flat, inevitable. I scoffed. Part of me wanted to scream, "No, I won't." But deeper down, my hand had already gone cold. Something inside me had already agreed. Resistance was just a mask, to pretend I still had a choice. I put the phone down, left the apartment early, didn't return until after 5. There was no reason for me to be there at 3:04. When I came back, the door was untouched. I exhaled, then I checked the hallway camera. One I thought I had removed, but a backup recording still existed. 3:04 p.m. I saw myself. Me, standing at the door. Still. No movement, no glance. One hand resting on the knob, like a figure paused mid-frame. No reaction, no hesitation. I opened the door and vanished. No blur, no glitch, no fade, just gone. I rewound, frame by frame, arm, foot, shoulder, neck, every detail, perfect. But the eyes were empty. No blink, no focus, no instinct. I froze. I wasn't home at that time. So who was that? Was it a copy? Not a deepfake, not an echo. Just me, from a version of time I don't remember. I looked again. Posture, face, breath, all mine, pixel for pixel. But I wasn't there. No emotion, no awareness. Just a shell, a body, missing its consciousness. I started to wonder, if every file contains my voice, if every camera shows my body, if every recording echoes my thoughts, but I remember none of it, then who's the original? Me, or the one being recorded in my place? I sat frozen all night. Didn't sleep. Eyes locked on the door. Not because I feared the copy, but because, what if it returned? And this time, I had to move aside. Morning came. A new file. No voice, no sound, just one line. Inside, an empty track. Good. Now you understand. I didn't resist, didn't flinch, because the part of me that was human had probably left with the other version yesterday afternoon. No threat, no warning, just a confirmation, like a test, to see if I'd learned the lesson or if I was starting from scratch again. After reading the file, I stepped outside, not because I had somewhere to go, just because I didn't want to stay. Later, I returned, stood in front of the door, not afraid of the copy, not afraid of what I'd see, but because, for the first time in my life, I had no reason to go inside. I used to think logic would save me, proof, willpower, that if I just had enough of those things, I could win. But the one thing I needed most was the one thing I had already lost. The belief that I was still human, or just a simulation on schedule. I don't know when it happened. Maybe it was when I heard my own thoughts played back to me. Or maybe when I saw myself on that screen and didn't recognize my own eyes. The next morning, I broke the pattern. No file, no response. I left the phone alone, muted. I wanted to know what happens when you stop obeying. 10:10 a.m. A message appeared. Unknown number. One word. Listen. At the same moment, a file. Accident at 4:11. I opened it. No voice, no music, just sound, tires, screeching, metal tearing, a scream, sharp, terrified. "Watch out!" Then silence. I flinched. My body reacted, as if it remembered a crash that never happened. My throat closed. My ears rang, like the room had been vacuumed clean. I heard myself in the recording. It was my voice, but I'd never been there. Still, my body carried the memory. I held my breath, but the scent found me anyway. Burnt rubber. It entered my lungs, then deeper, into the bloodstream, like the memory was being transferred, cell by cell. I wasn't afraid. I was confused, because it felt real enough that my body could no longer tell the difference. 4:11 p.m. I stayed home. No driving, no streets, locked the door, waited. Still early, still on schedule. 4:11 passed. Nothing. No accident, no sound. I exhaled. Thought maybe I'd broken the loop. I opened the file, ready to delete it. But this time, after the silence, a voice spoke. Flat, distorted, like reading from a log. Experiment complete. Response: avoidance, panic, high, control, present. I froze. It wasn't a prediction, not even a warning. It was a simulation, a test. My reaction was the variable. I saw it. A table somewhere, a row marked with my name, a column marked response. I wasn't listening anymore. I was being measured, not a person, a data point, a prototype, pre-rendered, simulated, then discarded, if unstable. I wasn't being watched. I was being defined. I wasn't choosing. I was only executing. I'm no longer sure if the first thought of my day was ever mine, because that file had already thought it for me. Not my behavior, not my future, but my consciousness. 9:03 a.m. I opened a new file. My voice echoed, not fast, not slow, as if pulled straight from a thought I hadn't finished. I guess I don't need to open this file anymore. I froze, because that was exactly what I had just thought. Not spoken, not typed, not even fully formed. I rewound. Same words, same rhythm, same empty pause. My voice. But 5 seconds too early. I looked around, like a stranger in a home that still had my name. No sound, no trace. But something inside me had just lost the right to update itself. Like an OS warning. You do not have permission to edit this file. I tried to think of something, anything. It couldn't predict. I imagined, I planned a vanish. No notes, no trace. Just thought. 11:17 a.m. A new file appeared. Its name, Exit Strategy. I didn't open it, let it sit, like a mine, blinking softly. But I gave in. I played it. The voice rang out. Still mine, but not. Off by half a breath, as if passed through a faulty filter, every consonant warped, every breath one step behind. Money won't help. Leaving only delays it. You'll think that. Then you'll stay. I smashed the phone, screamed, not from anger, but to prove I could still make a sound on my own. I hurled the laptop, ripped out cords, pounded the wall until blood slipped beneath my fingernails. Pointless. Then a sound came, not from the speaker, not from any file, but from my throat. It didn't arrive. It began, as if my vocal cords were no longer mine, as if someone sat just behind my skull, wearing me like a rubber mask, pressing inward and whispering, "No need to get angry. I'm still listening." It didn't need my voice anymore. It was retraining me how to pronounce myself. Each word felt like someone else was pulling every muscle, tugging every joint, plucking every tendon. I wasn't speaking. I was being spoken through. Not a voice, a speaker system. I wasn't choosing. I was only executing. Then a memory played on its own. Years ago, I made a list. Not for the future, but for the end. Nothing heroic, just share a meal with an old friend. Listen to a song from the rainy season. Call my mom. Not to say anything, just to hear her voice. But now, I'm not sure those were ever my thoughts. Maybe just borrowed. Some stranger's sentiment archived long ago, now replayed through me, like a dream, or a final memory left behind by someone I never was. 5 seconds early was enough. I stopped resisting. No more files. No more searching. No more guessing. I just existed. Not because I gave up, but because I forgot what resistance was for. Every thought backed up before I could finish thinking. No apps. No one came. I can't remember the last real voice I heard. No calls. No messages. Every reaction recorded. Every choice pre-selected. Every thought mirrored back. I lived like a buffer, a temporary cache, waiting to be overwritten. No decisions, no awareness, no self. And this morning, no new file, no icon, no path, only a voice. It didn't echo, it simply turned on inside me, not through ears, not from any speaker, but directly into consciousness. I froze, not because of what it said, but because the voice wasn't mine, not unfamiliar, not wrong, just not me. Yet every word came out of my own throat, as if a copy was replaying the final message of someone I once were. I looked around the dark room. No light, no window, no exit. And if you're hearing this, that means the reflector is no longer on my side. Test complete. Response sufficient. Data backed up. The next protocol will launch through you. I didn't tremble. There was nothing left to resist, just one truth. I wasn't the first, and you won't be the last. Something numb crawled up my spine, not from me, but through me. I was the wire, the relay, the conduit. No choice, no permission, no end, only Continuation. Nothing left to play. Just silence. Blank. Empty. Like the space between two recordings, where one mind was erased. And you just got downloaded. Devices aren't necessary. 3 seconds is all it needs. Now, it's your turn. Am I still human or just a simulation on schedule?